Welcome back, friends, to the Hobby Barn Basement, to the Skymaster F-14 Edf conversion. As promised, part two of the construction slash deconstruction. Um, I have gone back through at the revelation of what I like to call WWJD, or what would Jonathan do? And for those of you who don't know who Jonathan is, I am an avid fan of the lighter side of RC, as I find his builds and his techniques eminently usable. And in a recent video series he did on a rebuild, I was reminded that no matter how good somebody's previous work was, it's never a bad idea to go back through and revisit it and ensure that everything was done and locktited and double checked. And I have previously mentioned, at least to some of my viewers, I've had a servo chatter, which is not necessarily a big problem. It's just noise in the line, but it becomes an aggravation. And when you're working on an airplane that weighs between 40 and 50 pounds, I've discovered that part of the issue was it needed to have braided line, not just a line extension. When you're using ESCs of that magnitude in pairs and your wiring is running in between them, it creates a lot of noise even when they're not running. So one of the first things I did, as much as I hated to do it, was to pull these magnificent Schubler fans out of their mounting, these ESCs out of their mountings. I had to pull some of the ductwork out. Those are the thrust tubes, and pull everything apart. So the next step, of course, was pull the servos out of their mountings. And for those of you that are wondering, these are Savox. This is Savox hardware. These were probably 1.5 or 2 inch servo arms that were put down to 1 inch to fit. I pulled these out. I'm using the D950 high-tech servo in this, which is what the previous owner had, and they're more than adequate for this application. But what I did was pull these out, test them, ensure that there was no chatter with these servos on a direct link. And there wasn't. And then I tested the extensions, and that's where the problem was. Subsequently, what that led to was me using a 22 gauge braided wire, which I'm going to show you, and I created all brand new extensions from the tailerons, from the rudder linkage on both sides, and I'll give you a shot on the inside here. All of that has been run all the way up front, and I'll do a custom set up here. These will all end up underneath the battery tray, probably up here and most likely in the front part of the nose section until I can get a CG and have an idea. I'm still unsettled on the battery tray section. So I'm going to walk around on this side and show you partially where I'm at. These are for the ESCs. They're going to get a separate braiding and put down on this side. I used some 3/8 plastic split tube to run all my wiring through. It's going to be shielded with aluminum tape when it goes in between the ESCs. So what will happen is right here, as you can see where it runs, this is going to get taped over to give it a little extra added protection. Also, I lost my light. You'll see down in here, back into the fuselage where everything comes together, there's a section where I run it back in, so it's all tied together. Obviously both sides have been torn apart. Here's a look from the tailpipe. Give everybody a good look. You can see the wiring has been aluminum taped. All the wiring has been centralized. That was done on both sides. Now, I used aluminum tape for a couple of reasons. I realize this is not a turbine jet, but it helps reduce interference and it protects it. Besides the fact that it sticks to fiberglass very well. So why not use it? So the second thing I did, I liked the way the previous owner set up the rudder sections of these. As you can see, these are the connectors for the rudders. The whole assembly sits right down over top of it. You plug your rudder connector in right here, but underneath it there was no support. This is just straight fiberglass. So what I ended up doing was cutting a section, which is probably going to be really hard to see, but right up under here, and put a piece of 1/8 inch ply around it to shore it up, epoxy, and then ran my wiring through it, and then gooped the wiring in between it so that it can still be removed later. So for right now, folks, that's where I'm at. The next step will be probably coming up with a tray for the batteries, tidying up a little more of the wiring. I'm going to have to remount the fan units at a bare minimum, likely getting the nose back on, because I'm going to have to try and do a tentative CG on this plane so I can get an idea how to do the battery mountings, because there's going to have to be a tray here, and I'm still going to have to put the air system and the air tanks in are either going to go somewhere in this area up here or along here, depending on the batteries. If I've got to put both sets in this section, the air system's going to have to go in the nose. If it's one set of batteries here and one in the nose section, then the air tank is going to go up here instead. So there's still lots to work out. You know, plenty to ponder. So this video is going to be short. If you guys have any questions or comments, please drop them down below. I appreciate you watching. Plenty of work to do. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Any other questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.